Welcome to Ripple Heart Updates, where every story touches your soul and reminds you that love, courage, and kindness can change lives. Today's story will take you on an emotional journey that you won't forget. The bus was already crowded when Daniel stepped on, his hand protectively resting on his wife's shoulder. Beside him, little Mia clutched her father's arm, her big brown eyes scanning the noisy aisle. It had been a long day. He had picked up his wife, Claire, from the small clinic where she worked as a nurse, and they were heading home together. This was their routine every Friday evening, but today, the tension in the air was different. Claire, still recovering from a minor leg injury, walked with a slight limp. Daniel guided her carefully to an empty seat near the middle of the bus. People were crammed shoulder to shoulder, holding on to metal poles and handles that swung with each turn. The smell of rain, soaked clothes, and cheap cologne mixed in the air. Just as Claire was about to sit down, a group of 3 young men standing near the back began making loud, snide comments. At first, Daniel thought they were just joking among themselves, but it quickly became obvious their remarks were aimed at Claire. "Hey, nurse lady, you limping home from saving lives?" One of them sneered, his voice laced with mockery. The others chuckled. Claire stiffened, keeping her head down. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he told himself to stay calm, for Maya's sake. But it didn't stop there. As the bus lurched forward, one of the men deliberately bumped into Claire's shoulder, making her stumble. Daniel caught her before she fell, glaring at the man. "Watch where you're going," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. The man smirked. "Maybe she should watch where she's standing. Or better yet, step off the bus if she can't handle the ride." The other 2 laughed again, their voices carrying over the hum of the engine. Daniel's hand tightened on the metal pole. He looked around for support, but most passengers avoided his eyes, pretending not to notice. Claire's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The next stop came, and more passengers squeezed in. The young men didn't move to make space. Instead, they edged closer to Claire. One of them reached out and tugged at the strap of her bag. "Hey, maybe you don't need that seat," the man said, pushing her lightly toward the aisle. "Someone else could use it." It happened so fast. Claire stumbled again, her injured leg making it impossible to regain her balance. Daniel lunged forward, catching her just before she could hit the floor. The bus driver glanced in the rearview mirror, but didn't say a word. That's when Daniel's patience snapped. He stood tall, his voice sharp enough to cut through the chatter of the entire bus. "Touch my wife again," he said, his eyes locked on the man's, "and you'll regret it." Silence fell for a moment. The man smirked, but his smile faltered under Daniel's unflinching gaze. Claire gripped Daniel's arm, whispering, "Let it go." But Daniel shook his head. "You think you can shove people around just because nobody stands up to you?" Daniel continued, his voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not today. Not with her. Not while I'm here." The bus driver called out over his shoulder, "Hey, keep it down back there!" But the tension was already thick. One of the other men tried to laugh it off. "Relax, man, we were just playing." Daniel took a step closer. "You think this is a game? She's my wife. She's recovering from an injury, and you're trying to push her off a moving bus. Do you have any idea what could have happened?" Some of the nearby passengers began to murmur. A woman near the front stood up and offered her seat to Claire, who gratefully took it. Daniel stood next to her, still watching the men. The ringleader's smirk returned. "You gonna hit me in front of your kid?" he taunted. Daniel didn't move, but his voice was like steel. "No, because I'm not like you. But if you so much as breathe in her direction again, I will make sure you never forget this ride." For the rest of the journey, the men kept to themselves. The bus finally reached their stop, and Daniel guided Claire and Mia off, the cool night air washing over them. As they walked toward home, Claire looked up at him. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "Yes, I did," Daniel replied, his voice gentle now. "Because you're my family, and no one gets to make you feel unsafe while I'm here." Claire's eyes glistened and she reached for his hand. "You always make me feel safe," she whispered. They passed under the glow of the street lamps, Mia skipping between them, oblivious to the danger that had just passed. But in Daniel's mind, one truth was clear. Love wasn't just about the quiet moments, it was about standing up, even when your voice shakes, to protect the people who mean the most.